Hello, everybody. You're looking live at Fansville, a college football utopia.
Fansville.
Where the rivers flow with ice-cold Dr. Pepper.
Delicious.
Where every day is Saturday and everyone's a fan, even babies.
Fan babies.
And the seasons never change because the only season is college football season. Get a taste of Fansville this fall during a college football game near you. Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville. Grab some today.
Like the song says, money, 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 money.
Odell Beckham Jr. finally got his deal.
The highest paid receiver in the NFL.
Fights with Josh Norman, fights with kicking nets.
Now that we've paid no off-the-field behavior issues.
First thing you should do, take his vitals. I didn't understand.
The university accepts legal and moral responsibility.
How many times have you watched the tape of the Super Bowl?
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
It never gets old. It's obviously a game that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
What you see may change your perception of any sporting event. Get this, shoot this.
Welcome to Outside the Lines. I'm Bob Lee. 4 days and counting until Maryland Terrapin football begins the season, but the pall over the program is real and present. That's where we start with our big story this Tuesday in the confines of Studio Z. Last season, Maryland went down to Austin and shocked the Texas Longhorns in the season opener, a huge boost to a Terps season that ended eventually with a losing record. But the Terps football program with losing seasons 6 of the last 9 years, and the university, each grieving and investigating the circumstances around June's heat stroke death of Jordan McNair, who had collapsed earlier at practice. The head coach of the Terps, DJ Durkin, is under a suspension in the wake of an ESPN report which detailed a, quote, toxic culture in the football program. 2 separate investigations are underway, one independent of the school into the healthcare protocols, and the other by the school into the essence of the football program. Interim head coach Matt Canada, who has never served as a head coach before, within the hour describing the state of his team.
We talk about it probably daily as a team, and I couldn't be prouder of the way they're working at it. As I mentioned, we've all had grieving processes and things like that to deal with, so we're helping each other. When somebody's having a tough day, we try to help each other out. But I think everything that they've dealt with, they've done the best job they could possibly do. I think we're as ready as we could be given the situation that we're in. I feel very good about that.
ESPN's Heather Dinich is in College Park, Maryland. Yes, there's football, but there are also, as I alluded to, those investigations. What's the timetable, Heather, that we've learned about how this probe is going forward?
Well, the biggest news today was that the coaching staff, all of the assistants who were present on May 29th, the workout when Jordan McNair suffered heat stroke, began interviewing with investigators on Monday. Matt Canada told me, as a staff, we all feel it was important to have an honest and productive conversation. I know the commission is working hard to gain all the information they need to meet their charge. So the fact that they just began interviews on Monday leads me to believe that this is going to be somewhat of a lengthy investigation. And the sense that I get from talking to people close to the Board of Regents is that they're in no rush. They want to do a thorough job and get this done right. And most people, including the state's attorney's office, are waiting until September 15th. That's when the Walters Inc. investigation will be released and made public before making any further decisions.
Yeah, that into the healthcare protocols, the region's looking into the totality of the football program. They're going to want to talk to players. What's going to happen there?
They have been talking to players, and players have not been made available to the media. So I haven't spoken to any of them directly. There have been mixed reviews as to how forthright they have been with investigators, and that's the question, because the bottom line is that there are players, not just at Maryland, but everywhere, who need these scholarships. And quite frankly, how afraid are they of losing those? Will they be forthcoming and speak freely? Will they feel free to speak freely without any fear of repercussions?
So the investigation's underway, and there are 2 of them. Heather Dinich, thank you, in College Park, Maryland. Now, the NFL.
Banning on a play fake. Rolls right, throws a deep ball down the right sideline. Odell Beckham Jr. made the catch with one hand. Ridiculous. Odell Beckham Jr. for the touchdown.
All right, that was the 7th game Odell Beckham Jr. ever played in the National Football League. That one-handed catch defined him through the subsequent 3.5 seasons. And now, of course, as we've told you, he's agreed to a $95 million 5-year extension with $65 million guaranteed. That's the second highest amount of non-quarterback guaranteed money behind Von Miller. And the Giants are the only club with 3 players, Beckham, Olivier Vernon, and Eli Manning, getting at least $50 million each in guaranteed long green. And for OBJ, it comes on the heels of last year when he missed 12 games with an injury. So I'm joined now by Jason Reid of the Undefeated. A lot of ripples from this. What's the biggest ripple you see from this deal?
Well, you look at the fact that you have a guy at a premier position who's making this type of money. It's not quite quarterback money, but it is great money just outside of quarterback money. And you look at all the other receivers in the league, and now you have a new target to shoot for. You know, we know, Bob, that whenever a guy breaks a record or whenever a guy goes to a new level in terms of the guaranteed money, everybody has a keen eye on that. We saw what Kirk Cousins did, the Minnesota Vikings quarterback, right, who was formerly with the Redskins, and all the talk around that. So the chatter is always going to be, when we have these types of deals, okay, what does this do to the market going forward? Obviously, Odell Beckham Jr., a difference maker, a guy the Giants had to have. And when we see in the coming seasons what's going to happen with other wide receivers, we know what we're looking to. Yeah, it is resonating in agencies and front offices. All right, let's talk about Cleveland. Again, all this burgeoning optimism around the Browns. But here comes defensive coordinator Greg Williams. Yes, the Greg Williams from Bountygate, New Orleans, speaking with what I would call bloodless realism about the rookie cornerback, Denzel Ward, who was the 4th pick in the draft, and talking about Ward's tackling technique. He didn't like it. First, we'll hear from Williams and then his boss, and his boss is not amused.
Maybe you'll finally listen to me and stop doing those stupid things the way he's trying to tackle, and tackle the way I tell him to tackle, and he won't get hurt.
Greg doesn't get to do just what he wants to do. I mean, so we'll work through all of that. But our players got it. There's a certain way we do want them to tackle because of size, structure, and all that. We don't want a guy to get hurt or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure Greg does advise, but we don't need to do all that stuff in the media.
All right, so, Williams said a number of things, but the gospel, according to Greg, there's no misreading. He was not a happy camper here, and neither was Hugh Jackson. So the kumbaya moment for Cleveland has blown up rather quickly.
Yeah, absolutely, Bob. And here's the thing. I covered Greg Williams in a former life when I was on the Redskins beat. And Greg Williams is a guy who he's incredibly bright. The joke used to be that the second G in his name, G-R-E-G-G, stands for genius. And he'd be the first one to tell you that, okay? And when Greg went to Cleveland, I kind of thought there'd be some issues because Hugh is the head coach, and Hugh wants his people to get in line, as most head coaches do, with what he wants. And Greg is his own man, and Greg is going to do things his way. But I will say this about Greg, Bob. Players who play for Greg, I mean, guys who I've known for many years, guys I still talk to about the league and things that go on, they swear by Greg Williams. They will tell you that Greg Williams, they would run through a wall for him and then run through another wall if he told them that. That's just the way they look at him.
Yeah, so get out of the training room. That's exactly his message to all his players. All right, Jerry Jones is talking, which means we must listen, which means he's talking about a possible 18-game regular season and what he says would be another $1 billion to the players. Let's give a listen.
My solution is real simple. Is cut back on preseason games, have one at each team's home, and then you need to add 2 games to the regular season. That's a better way of players using what they bring to the table. That'll give them a bigger payday. And the other thing it does is certainly give our fans what we all think they deserve, and that is a competitive game.
All right, so this is, by the way, America, he's doing you a favor. It's for the players. It's for the fans. It's not for the extra 2 games in the expanded television contract. No. It's not a new idea. God bless Jerry Jones. I mean, he makes the discovery of water seem like it's a big deal here.
Bob, you know what Jerry is? Jerry's a giver. Jerry just wants to keep giving to the nation. And here's the thing, Bob. It's such a disingenuous argument because Jerry, when this came up before, the reason there was so much pushback is because it's not just 2 extra games, because during the preseason, Bob, as you know, starters, guys who are actually in the league and are going to play on a consistent basis, for most of the preseason, they don't play. Usually in the 3rd preseason game is when the starters play a lot.
And not even this year.
but not even this year. So it's simply wrong to say that, well, we're just replacing this with that, because it's a fundamental difference in how players would approach the season, the wear and tear in their bodies. And also, one thing Jerry didn't mention, Jerry talked about the fans and doing it for the fans and talking about the players, all the money they'd make. But let's not forget, Bob, the projection is the owners would all pocket an additional about $32 million.
Yeah, all right. I got about 30 seconds here to, Jerry Jones, we haven't heard from him and haven't heard anybody on the anthem question. There was a meeting yesterday. Jones is not part of this, and he might be said to be part of the problem. What have you learned? I mean, yesterday both sides said we're keeping it confidential. Any movement?
Yeah, I mean, there's no new deal in place or anything like that. But the way it's been characterized to me is that the owners have made good movement in terms of showing the players that they care about the issues that are important to the players. The players need to continue to have an open mind. And ultimately, Bob, here's the thing. The owners don't need the union. They don't need the players to implement what they're going to implement. But my belief is, Bob, is that there won't be any new rule before the season kicks off. We're coming right up against it. I do think something will happen, but I think the players have to understand what the owners are doing, and there has to be some give and take, because the owners can just implement this if they want to.
If they want to, but it would seem to go down a lot nicer if there was agreement, by the way. And Jerry Jones just giving and continuing to give. And on the outside of this issue, looking in the undefeated.com is where you find Jason Reid. Thank you, sir, as always. And next up, my conversation with the reigning Super Bowl champion coach on what he shares with 27 other men in Cleveland. Doug Pederson, right here next.
Computer, execute 12.4p operation.
Optimizing algorithm. Running encryption packet alpha. Night. Oh, I don't feel so good.
What is it, computer?
Is it hot in here? It feels hot in here. I feel a little clammy. I should lie down or something.
A computer with a virus? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
Those oysters Rockefeller were a mistake.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Outside the Lines is brought to you by Domino's. Order online at Domino's.com.
And this item today, 3 Arizona sports legends who are friends of John McCain will take part in the Senator's Memorial in Phoenix on Thursday. Cardinals wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald will be one of 6 speakers who will pay tribute to McCain at the ceremony. Also, Diamondbacks outfielder Luis Gonzalez and the former Coyotes forward Shane Doan will be serving on the day as pallbearers. McCain, who was an avid sports fan, died Saturday at the age of 81. Today in the B block, the NFL lifer who spent more than a decade as a quarterback in the NFL, mostly as a backup. He won a ring behind the Packers' Brett Favre. He started 17 games in all of those years. But through it all, Doug Pederson was learning his sport, his game, the art of skill of managing and leading the men who play it, beginning his coaching career at a high school and then climbing the NFL ladder to become the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles. The journey Pederson describes in his book, Fearless, How an Underdog Becomes a Champion. That fearlessness was illustrated for the ages with Pederson's 4th down call in the Super Bowl against the champion Patriots. 2 words, Philly special.
4th and goal at the 1. It's a direct snap, and it goes to Clement, who gives it off to Burton, the tight end, who then throws in the end zone. Touchdown! Falls! What did we just see?
And I am joined by the head coach of the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles, Doug Pederson. Doug, it's great to have you here. Welcome.
Bob, thank you for having me, and I'm excited to be on.
Well, I got to ask you, how many times have you watched the tape of the Super Bowl?
I've watched it a few times. It never gets old, obviously. Especially watching the Philly special. But it's obviously a game that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
Do you watch it as a coach, or can you watch it with friends with a glass of wine in your hand? It's just another guy.
You know what? I do it both. I do watch it with the coach's eyes, looking at fronts, looking at coverages, from the defensive perspective. I'm even critiquing my play calls, from should I have run the ball in that situation to throw it in that situation. But then there are times when I look at it as a fan and just see how excited the fans were to be able to watch that game.
The one play call clearly, and you alluded to it already, that's going to live forever. NFL Films had that little vignette, and we see in here Nick coming over to the sidelines. Took you 2 seconds to decide to call Philly special. And I said immediately on the air, there's a message for every manager there. You don't have to have a long meeting. What does that immediate dedication, and we know the preparation that went into it, that moment, the decisiveness in that moment, what does that say about the way you're trying to run the team?
Well, I think it goes to the fact that I trust my players 100%, and I can't say that everywhere, and I'll just say that my guys believe in me and believe in what we're doing and the way we execute, and so I think there's a trust factor there that they can come and they can collaborate and they can talk, and Nick can throw out an idea and it's a great idea at the time, and that's something that we were able to do pretty much all of last year, and it culminated obviously with the Philly special and a win in the Super Bowl.
Now, you didn't say, I understand from your book, you didn't say Philly special into your mouthpiece. You used the wristband number. So when it kind of seeped through the sideline, oh my gosh, we're going to try this.
That was pretty exciting. Yeah, there were some. I think there were some eyebrows raised when the play finally came out. When John DeFilippo upstairs read the number of the wristband call, and but there was a buzz too because everybody knew that if this play hits, it's going to be a big time play, and sure enough it did, and it really energized our guys going forward from that point.
I want to go from Philly special and your ring, your second Super Bowl ring, back to the fraternity you're part of, starting Cleveland Browns quarterbacks since 1999. Have you seen the mock-up jersey that lists all the names?
I've got a picture of it on my phone. Yes, I've seen it.
I think you're number 4. When you look at that, what do you think about?
First of all, that's a long list of quarterbacks, and I honestly, quite honestly, when I see that picture, I'm also reminded of my time in Green Bay with a quarterback that played one quarterback in particular that played a lot of years in Green Bay, and Brett Favre, and where that list is pretty extensive.
Yeah, and his legacy, of course, lives forever. I want to talk to you about one of your captains, Malcolm Jenkins. We had him on this program a number of times at the Super Bowl a couple of years ago about his activism through what was going on last year. Talk about this gentleman, and he was in here 3 days after the parade, and I asked him how he balanced playing a Super Bowl caliber and winning season with what he was doing with his activism. I mean, meeting with the commissioner, organizing the player activism, and what kind of a guy he is in your eyes.
I'd tell you, Malcolm is a tremendous human being. He's a great teammate, a great player, a leader on our football team. He's part of the player council that the players vote on, and he does a lot not only for the Philadelphia Eagle organization, but obviously off the football field and in some of the opportunities that have been kind of put in his lap, and he's such a strong voice and a powerful voice that I've had him talk to the team before. I've had Chris Long talk to the team. I've had these guys express their feelings because, quite honestly, even myself, we don't know necessarily what they're going through and what they're helping, and so for them to be able to shed a little light to us is valuable.
In that fall where so much was happening last year off the field and politically with the White House and the anthem and the activism and Malcolm being in the middle of it, did you have any concerns about the impact and just not team cohesiveness but maybe focus?
I really didn't, and I think it goes back to our communication process, and obviously it starts with me and how I communicate with the team, but allowing these guys, these players to talk to the team and to the organization, and just kind of keeping everybody abreast of their feelings and their thoughts, and it never became divisive. It never became a subject of anything that was going to split the team or divide the team. Never once we got to that, and I think it's because of our communication process.
I want to talk to you about your coaching. You say in your book you've warmed a little bit by bit, to analytics. So how have you approached this? What was your former attitude about it, and how have you warmed to them?
Well, I think you you take from it what you want to take from it, and it's just like I talk to the players. You put in a half an effort, you're going to get half an effort out. So I put in 100% into it, but I take out what I want to take out and use what I need to use in situational football. During games. Also with players, sometimes the way we practice or a way a player is practicing and being able to use it that way as well. But, for me, it's, it's relatively new for me, but at the same time, it's something that I've embraced, and it has really helped me make manageable decisions during games when quite frankly they're tough decisions to make.
The book is entitled Fearless. Who in your life do you believe has been most responsible for instilling that into your character?
I'd honestly have to say my parents. My parents, obviously growing up and my mom, she was a stay-at-home mom. My dad worked and just, providing for us and having that type of fearless mentality that they would do anything for us and nothing was going to kind of stand in their way and just really provide and love us like parents do, and like my wife and I love our parents, and so I think from an early age that was, and of course my dad coached me as a young football player and a baseball player growing up, so I think all part of that is the reason that I think a little bit of me has that fearless factor to do the things I'm doing today.
And proving you can change history in 2 seconds. I cite it often as decisiveness in the moment. Doug, again, congratulations. The book is Fearless. We wish you luck with this season, luck with the book. Thanks for spending this time with us.
Bob, thank you so much for having me.
And next, it's years later, and we are still learning about the depths of the Baylor scandal. 11 Eastern tonight after the U.S. Open with Bucci and Anderson, Sports Center inside Jacob deGrom's pursuit of the side. Notre Dame, can they make the football playoffs? It's all on the app. A couple of WNBA playoffs games at 8 and 10. You've got the Mystics and the Dream, then Phoenix Mercury and the Seattle Storm. Both games on ESPN and the ESPN app. Of course, you know that Baylor University has been turned upside down into internal civil war over the school's indifferent and callous treatment of sexual assault survivors, many victimized by football players. The school president, the AD, the coach Art Briles all departed. 2 Title IX coordinators resigned. At least 50 sexual assaults alleged to have been committed on nearly 24 women, that by football players. These women ran into obstacles when trying to report and seek help. World-class scandal. Now, word from the outlet PR Week that the school, along with a public relations firm the school hired back then, planted what a source calls a mole among student survivors and activists, the better to soften the protesters' messages and report back to the university. Now, the school rejects the characterization, saying that Matt Burchett, the man in question, was the school's director of student activities. He was simply trying to help. Mole, coordinator, whatever. You folks at Baylor quibble about the term. But the look, it's simply more of the same, where Baylor's primary concern consistently, since the earliest days of the scandal, has been protecting the brand and the name and the reputation of the school. And if that's been the objective, the school has failed utterly, and you do not need a mole to tell you that. See you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern outside the lines. Knicks is next. NFL Live. Here's Wendy with all the news, the OBJ contract and the ripples from that. We'll see you tomorrow.